Hi, this is Mrs. Clark, and this is a video about the slope-intercept form. So these are the notes for our interactive notebook. So once you open the slide up, go ahead and copy these slides. Remember to do that. You can click them individually and do Control-C, or you can Control-A to select all of them at the same time, and you can right-click them here to copy them, and then you can paste them into your notebook. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through what the slope-intercept form is, and then we're going to do some examples together and fill them in. There's a couple of things to fill in on this first slide. I will read you through the second slide, and then we will do something on the third slide. So the last time we were together, we looked at the slope-intercept form, and we did an exploration of what the slope does to a graph and what the b value or the y-intercept does to a graph. Now we're going to actually look at those equations a little bit more in detail and practice graphing from an equation. So the reason it's called the slope-intercept form is because the two pieces of information we can get from the equation are the slope. It is the coefficient of x, the number here in front of the x, and then we can find out the y-intercept, meaning where this, if this line was graphed on a graph, where it would cross the y-intercept. So that b value is our y-intercept. It also can be written as a point, 0, comma, something, whatever this number is. Okay, so this number in front of the x tells us our rise and run. This number at the end tells us where this line is going to cross the y-axis. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to practice going through a couple equations and listing out what the slope and the y-intercept are in each equation. Feel free to pause it, try these on your own, and then come back to check your answers. We'll do at least the first one together, and then maybe a good time to pause it would be after we do the first one. That way you can do them on your own, check back to see if you did them correctly. Okay, number one, our task here is to state the slope and the y-intercept of each line. So all we're doing is looking at this equation and pulling out those two pieces of information. So the slope, as we know, will be this m in front of the x. So I'm looking in my equation for the x. Here it is, and in front of it is a 3/4. So my slope is going to be 3/4. So I'm just going to fill that in here in this box. 3/4 for 3/4. My y-intercept is this number at the end, my b value, and this is a +2, so I'm going to fill in 2 for my b value. Now, I know it doesn't have a lot of meaning to you at this point right now because we're just kind of pulling the information out of the equation, but in the next slide we are going to talk about what do these actually mean and what will we use some of these things for. All right, number 2, the m, which is our slope, is in front of the x, so that is -3. So I'm going to write -3, but I'm also going to make it a fraction. So I'm going to do -3/1. So remember, it's rise over run. In this case, it would be fall over run because it's going down, because it's a negative number. My b value is this number at the end, +5, so +5. I'm going to put a 5 in this box. All right, looking at number 3. Now would be a good time to pause, do this one, check back. The m value is in front of the x. Here I have a 6/5, so that is my slope. 6/5, rise 5, rise 6, run 5. My b value is a -7. So notice in the equation it says +b, but here I have a minus. I need to make sure that I attach that minus sign onto the 7, and my b is a -7. Whatever sign is in front of the number, that's the sign that goes with the b. All right, number 4 looks a little bit different. Pretty much the same, but we want to be a little bit careful here. We're looking for our m. I'm very tempted to look right here, but I want to look for the x first. Over here is the x, and what's right in front of the x? This plus sign. So that's a positive x. So that means it's a positive 1x. So our slope in this situation is 1/1, because this is 1x. This -6 is not in front of the x because there's this plus sign between them. So this is actually our b. Just rewrote the equation in a different order. So it's written y = b plus mx. So you have to look carefully for the x part of the equation. The equations won't always be written with the x part first. So again, the x is here. It's 1x, positive 1x. So I'm going to say positive 1 over 1 is our slope. For our b value, it's the number that is by itself, this negative 6. All right, in our last equation here, y equals 10 minus x, very similar to this one that we just looked at. It does not start with the x term here. The x is over here. And what's in front of the x this time? A negative sign. So what number would that be? It would be negative 1. So I'm going to make that into a fraction. I'm going to do negative 1 over 1. Anytime you have just a coefficient that's a whole number, just put it over 1 when you go to make your fraction. This would mean I'm going down 1 to the right 1. My b value is the constant term that's by itself, which is this 10 here. It's a positive 10, so I'm going to put a positive 10 in this box. Okay, so we've practiced the skill of just looking at the equation and pulling out what is the slope and what is the y-intercept. And so that's really important because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at graphing the equation. And in order to do that, we need to be able to pull out this information because that's the first step. So I've done this next one for you, but I'm going to go through it and read it through with you, the steps on how to do it to make sure that it makes sense to you. So to graph this line, y equals 1/3 x minus 4, the first thing I need to do is figure out what my slope is and what my y-intercept is. So my slope is my m, that's in front of the x, it's 1/3. My y-intercept is the b value, which is at the end, which is negative 4. Once I know those two pieces of information, the very first thing I have to do is figure out where to start my graph. So we start our graph at the negative 4. We start it at the y-intercept, because that means it's going to be a point on the y-axis that the line goes through. So we start with graphing that point. So I'm going to start at negative 4 on the y-axis, and I'm going to make a point. So if you look here and follow this arrow down, you'll see. So we're here on the y-axis. Here's 0. We're going down 1, 2, 3, 4. Negative 4 is down here. The point would be 0, negative 4. We're going to start with this point. Now I've done this example for you, but essentially this is what we would do next. The next thing we would do is we look at our slope, and our slope tells us 1 over 3. So it's a rise of 1 and a run of 3. So I'm going to go up 1 over 3, and I'm going to plot a second point. So from here, I'm going to go up 1. Oh, this is 2. I'm going to go up 1 and over 3. There we go. Up 1 and over 3. You're going to make a second point here. And then you're going to go up 1 and over 3 again and make another point here. You can even go backwards the other direction. You can go 3 to the left and then down 1. Thinking of it in the reverse. So running to the left and running and then falling down to make points going in either direction. Once I have points going in either direction, I'm going to connect the points and draw a line with arrows on both sides. So I do this blue line connecting all of these points. So this blue line would represent the line that represents this equation, y equals 1/3 x minus 4. So the whole steps that we did were to create this blue line. So let's do an example together on the next slide. Okay, so we're going to try to graph the line y equals negative 2x plus 6. So again, two pieces of information I need to pull out. The slope, which is negative 2, so I'm making it negative 2 over 1, so it's always a fraction. The b value, which is 6, b equals 6. So this is important because that's where I start. I start at the 6 on the y-axis and I make a point. So you'll notice I've already done that for you. I made this nice yellow point here. From there, we're going to go down 2 blocks and over to the right 1 block to plot our second point. So you'll notice I have some points over here that you can move. Now here's a quick trick. You can click on the point. Once it's selected, you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard to move it sideways, left, right, up, or down. It's way faster than trying to drag it with your mouse, especially if you don't have a mouse and you're trying to use the trackpad. So consider doing that. I want to move this point to go where I would land after starting at this yellow point. I go down 2, and to the right 1, I would land right here. So I'm going to put that other point right here at the end of this orange line. So I'm going to use my arrow keys. I'm going to slide all the way over and then place it there at the end. So I'm going to keep doing that. It says continue the rise and run until you have multiple points. You can go forward and backward. So from here, I would go down 2 over 1. I'm going to put another point there. So click on that. Use my arrow keys. Down 2 over 1. There's my third point. I got one more point to do, so let me click this one. It's going to go down 2 over 1 and go right here and hit the x-axis. So notice from every point, we go down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. My last step is to connect the points and draw the line. So I'm going to grab this line right here. I'm going to touch on this little blue dot on the corner here. That's what's going to help me stretch it. I may have to finagle it a couple times once I start getting it lined up, just try to make it a little bit more accurate. When it looks like it's good, then I will be all set. Keep adjusting it till I make sure that the line is going through nice and precisely through those points. So there we go. There is our green line, which represents the equation we were trying to graph, which is y equals negative 2x plus 6. Starts up here at the positive 6, and then goes down negative 2 over 1, negative 2 over 1, negative 2 over 1, and so on. And that's how we graph a line. So you're going to do very similar practice, but now you have these wonderful notes in your notebook. I'm going to show you quickly or the task that is in the practice. So let me pull that up for you real quick. All right, so what you're going to do after you open up this graphing slope-intercept form animals is you're going to look through these practice problems, and we're going to practice graphing lines. So our task is to graph the line that each equation represents by dragging the points and the line to the correct places on the graph. I want to make sure I click and type in the boxes to record my answers. I want to click and drag the items to move them. If you're moving the direction of a line, we want to make sure we click on the line and then click and drag the mini blue dot. So that's this little dot in the corner here. That'll help us stretch our arrow in any direction that we want. So what our task is going to be is there are 12 problems that look just like this. And you need to graph each line, and you need to figure out which animal the line will pass through. We've got a parrot, a fish, a panda, a frog, a monkey, and a crab. And so for each question, what you're going to do is list out the slope and the intercept in these boxes. And then you're going to take these points and you're going to drag them or use your arrow keys to move them to the correct spot to graph this line. So you're going to do like we just did in the example. Start with your y-intercept, graph that point, use your slope to count to the next point, move all 5 of these points so that they lie on the line, and then use this green line and stretch it out to connect them all. And your line should go through one of these animals. If it does not go through one of these animals, then you have made a mistake. So you're going to go through each of the 12 examples all the way to the last one. And when you get to 12 and you finish 12, you're going to click on this link right here, and it's going to take you to a Google form where you're going to submit all of the answers. So you're going to tell me which animal your line went through on each of the examples, 1 through 12, and then submit your Google form. It should automatically grade and tell you your score after you've completed it. And then the only other task to do after these 12 practice problems today would be to finish up any of the Edpuzzle or Khan Academy assignments that we worked on last class. So please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Make sure that you have done the attendance discussion posting for today. And yeah, like I said, feel free to Schoology message me with any questions, and I will see you guys when I return. Thank you. Bye.